going to start to look at this offseason a little deeper. We got NFL draft talk. We got some free agency talk. We got some potential contracts. We got some potential trade market players, and not the ones you think. I mean, everybody can talk about the A.J. Brown trade potential right now. I got some other names I want to hit with you guys on that. John, the first thing I want to talk about in segment number 2 here is in the same area. All right, we now have Chris Cooper. And one of the things I think many fans are ready for or even expecting is drafting of offensive linemen high up in the draft. Okay, so you're going to have potentially Cooper's first class. Now, I understand Cooper's not going to be making the picks. Doesn't have, that much pedigree in the building, but it will be his first, developmental guy to work with or draft pick guy to work with. If I'm not mistaken, John, Stoutland's very first offensive lineman was Lane Johnson, I believe. So that turned out to be pretty good. What does the O-line draft board look like now? And do you think this changes how Howie would approach drafting offensive linemen early?
Yeah, I think it will. I know already so many people have jumped to Caden Proctor at 23 for the Eagles. I think, if he's there, but I think that mindset might have to change because that seems like a player that would fit the old scheme. And I think you might have to start drafting a different style of offensive lineman as you move forward. Now, to say Stoutland's first pick was, first developmental process with Lane, he was the 4th pick in the draft. The Eagles stunk at the time, and that's a big time prospect. Now, Lane will tell you, look at his film in his rookie season, it was terrible, and Stoutland, really developed him. So he does deserve credit. But let's also say that, the crown jewel of Jeff Stoutland is Jordan Mailata, not Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson
I was a big prospect.
Yeah, might be the most athletic big man ever. Playing right tackle in the NFL. So a lot of physical gifts that Lane Johnson has. And so does Jordan, but different, obviously never played football and all that kind of stuff. I think you're already started, with Miles Hinton and Cam Williams and Drew Kendall and Willie Lampkin. Those two guys, Drew Kendall and Willie Lampkin, are already here. Those two guys, to me, seem like potential fits for the new scheme if they can develop them, but that's easier said than done. I think Miles Hinton and Cameron Williams are young enough to, not be beholden to what they've learned for a decade. So I don't think, those guys right off the bat, now they're not Lane Johnson level prospects. You got 3 day 3 picks, and Willie Lampkin was undrafted. But, to me, those will be like interesting players to look to see the difference and can they get them going and develop them. And can Chris Cooper do that? Again, his history in Minnesota is mixed. I mentioned some of the guys he wasn't able to develop that are higher prospects, 2nd round picks, 1st round picks. So that to me will, tell the story. Can they get guys like that up to speed? But as far as drafting goes, yeah, I mean, in theory, you got to draft a different style of offensive linemen. And that may start this year. It may not. I'm sure they'll draft an offensive lineman somewhere along the line.
And what's your gut right now in first round of an O-lineman? Will it be round 1, round 2, round 3? I'm sure it'll be a premium pick, but I'm not sure which.
Well, they'll definitely take one on the first 2 days of the draft. Like Spencer Fano to me would be the new guy. Like he would be the home run hit for the new scheme. The kid from Utah. But from everything I see, he's going to be a top 10 pick. So he's out of the equation. Proctor, I'm just looking at Proctor. He's 6'7", 366. That's what they list him as. I mean, you want him running off the ball at an angle?
Yeah, no. He is very, very athletic, but yeah, I agree with you. He's more built for the Mauler style.
So, the other Utah has 2 tackles, Spencer Fanu and Caleb Lomu. Maybe he's more of the Monroe Freeling from Georgia. I don't know. These are the top tackles, but because there's been so much hype on Caden Proctor, I'm like, oh, how does he fit now? I just don't see it. He might be athletic for 360 pounds, but do you want to waste a player like that with a bunch of reach blocks?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a good point by you. I don't know that that's going to be the case. We will find out what they end up doing. I think it could be second round, John. Honestly, I don't know if it'll be a first round because, you only get one first round pick, obviously. And this team is probably going to try and I don't know what's the part. It's interesting. Like I look at them like edge if they don't sign Jalen Phillips. Offensive linemen, if they don't feel great about Landon or Lane or or some of these guys, they could go a lot of different ways. You could even make an argument.
Wide receiver, if they get rid of AJ, right. Yeah, right. I mean, there's a lot of things, and that's why it's an exercise in futility until free agency comes and you see what the plan is, or at least you can framework. All right, they got a wide receiver. Maybe they get a player at maybe Jalen Phillips is back and you take edge off the table. So yeah, I mean, right now we're flying blind, as they say. When free agency, you at least get the framework of the plan they have, and you can whittle it down to certain things that they would be looking for. Not that the Eagles are a need-based drafting team, but need is the worst talent evaluator in sports. But again, you can say, take the best player. But if you have a quarterback, for instance, you don't take a quarterback. I mean, there's some context to that.
There is some nuance, right?
Yeah. So you get a better feel after free agency.
Good stuff there, Johnny Mac. John, continuing to look at this first round. I think we stay there for a little bit, talk about what could come in this and really the first couple rounds. It's not only limited to the first round, but you can see that the variance in what people are looking for. You see, where's that comment? I just saw somebody commented. Cornerback, safety, tight end, wide receiver. I mean, you got offensive linemen. You got all these different positions, cornerback too, all these different spots, John, where the Eagles could end up going. I think edge is going to be a bigger priority than them because I'm not sure if they think Nolan Smith is a long-term player just yet. And then obviously Jalen Phillips is out there. And if Jalen Phillips is going to get $25 million from somebody in the open market, my guess would be he's not back in Philly. And then you're back to where you started pre-Jalen Phillips trade, John, with Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt, both more developed players at that point, but probably still not enough to anchor your edge rushing group. It feels to me like they'd go edge if they're not able to get Jalen Phillips back, and obviously you'll know by that point because free agency is before the draft.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, edge is on the top of the list if they don't get Jalen Phillips back. You saw what they did last year now in hindsight to try to get an edge rusher. I mean, they were trying the entire time, come hell or high water, to get a big time edge rusher. And if, I don't want to compare Jalen Phillips to Micah Parsons or Myles Garrett, but he's a good player. And if you don't have him, you got to get another good player. And the easiest way to do that would be in the draft without spending $35 million. Because I'm not a Crosby to the Eagles guy.
No, me neither.
I don't think he reaches the level of Micah or Miles to where they'll move mountains to bring in a player like that.
Yeah, no
Good
doubt.
player. I'm not, but he's just different level.
It was a pretty strong story yesterday we talked about with Jalen Carter being offered potentially for Micah Parsons. Some people were commenting it's bullshit. We bought the it's BS from Micah Parsons. He's lying. I don't know if it is or it
These
isn't.
people, I mean, why? Like, why is it so hard for you to believe?
Well, I mean, it does come from Micah. Didn't come from reputable.
Well, it's not that point. It's but the point in general. Like when all this stuff comes out and it eventually comes out, and it's true 90% of the time. Like I said, I just wrote about this on Sports Illustrated. The Shane stuff with Saquon Barkley, the Joe Shane stuff. Like that's why people don't want. They do not want people hearing their conversations because they talk about everybody. Everybody. So all your favorite players, that's their jobs. That's what that's all they do. Is talk about, well, he's not what he once was. Maybe we can do this. Maybe we can do that. Should we think about moving? All these conversations, which could be by a fan base perspective, could be described as disrespectful, is business as usual in any NFL building. So whomever your favorite player is, they get talked about. Because this league moves quickly, very, very quickly. And by that, I mean players ascend and they descend, and there's no stasis where there's very few players who are untouchable. And if you can get Micah Parsons, there's even fewer that are untouchable.
It's true. All right, if we assume for a second that Micah is right, and they offered Jalen Carter to get him, I'm not sure if you've done any digging to see if that's true or not. If we assume that is correct, in theory, would the Eagles be open to trading Jalen Carter?
No, because that's the thing. Yes, for Micah Parsons, no.
Right. Only for a player like that.
Yeah. No, in a typical fashion. And was it correct? Yes and no. It was correct. And if they could have got the guy, they would have moved Jalen Carter. No, because it was never in the equation. The Cowboys weren't fucking trading him to the Eagles. So it depends how you frame it.
Right.
Well, yes, they would have traded him to get Micah Parsons. It's not an insult. It's not disrespectful. It's one of the things that drives me nuts. Pet peeve.
Well, I think people have put the cart before the horse, me included, guilty as charged on Jalen Carter. I mean, I think we think about him like he's the best defensive tackle in football, and he has the potential to be, but he hasn't necessarily reached that just yet.
No, he has not.
Yeah.
He has the potential. He's the most. He's the most talented. Is I think the best way to describe it. Or he's in the conversation. He's in a very small conversation of being the most talented defensive tackle in football. But no, he's not performed at that level. He got close. He was top 5 in 2024, and then just the injuries. Kind of he did not play well last year.
But I think he's kind of looming this summer, though, John. That's why I think it's a relevant conversation. I mean, if they were willing to trade him for Micah, I understand your point about you trading.
There's two players. There's 2 players they're willing to trade him for: Myles Garrett and Micah Parsons. And Micah's off the board now. So is Myles Garrett going to be about? They'll trade the building for Myles Garrett. Is he going to force his way out? I don't know. Jim Schwartz is gone. I know he liked Jim, and who knows where Myles is. But
what did Jim do? I thought did Jim do a new deal with them or what?
No, he resigned.
Jim Schwartz, did he?
Yeah. So he's not coming back. So that could affect Myles Garrett, and you'll get more. You'll know pretty quickly, as I said, the combines at the end of the month, and that's when everybody starts talking, agents and executives, and it'll be very clear if Myles wants out of Cleveland. And then yeah, you're going to hear all the Myles, and be prepared for all your favorites because they will trade the building for Myles Garrett.
Yeah, no doubt about that. We will see what ends up happening. John, back to the draft real quick. Where do you think they would draft an edge rusher if they sign Jalen Phillips? Is it off the board completely, you think? Because then they're probably pretty good at that spot, right?
Yeah, I mean, if they sign Jalen Phillips, they're not getting Myles Garrett. Yeah, I mean, now obviously everything has a butterfly effect. Did they think they have an opportunity to get Myles Garrett? They might know he's not on the trading block. Andrew Berry's consistently said he's not trading him. They signed him to a new deal. So it's very difficult. It would have to be the player being, so headstrong that I'm just not going to play for this team anymore. And then at some point you got to do something. That's a very small path. So yeah, I think the Eagles are operating with, they got to get Jalen Phillips back in the mold, but he's the one guy in free agency that's young, that's ascending, and who could break the bank. And I'm sure they're going to have a walkaway number, so to speak. But if you lose him, then you got to get somebody else to replace him.
Any idea what you think the walkaway number would be? I know I've set mine at 20. Yours is a little higher than mine is. Where do you think the Eagles would be?
Well, I think, these contract projections are you got to see where the market is first. Obviously, the cap is going up from 279 to 304-ish, 5-ish, somewhere in that range. So all these people justifying their contract projections on last year are not taking that into effect. So by and large, the cap goes up, the contracts go up. He's got an injury history. I would say hopefully from the Eagles' perspective, that'll press down the market a little bit. However,
significant injuries. I mean, Achilles and an ACL and back-to-back.
Yeah, but he looked pretty good last year.
Yeah, I know. Landon Dickerson looked pretty good for a year, 2 years. He's banged up.
Well, I don't think those injuries, especially in the modern era, are considered terribly, like Landon's got degenerative issues that I think
they're very different positions.
Yeah.
It's not a great comp, I understand.
Whereas, Jalen Phillips looked pretty good. I mean, he looked healthy. So are people going to believe their eyes, or are they going to be scared? You factor that into it. There's a lot of bad teams in the NFL, but there's a lot of bad teams from the perspective of, all right, this is the 26-year-old edge rusher on the market. He's going to be 27. That's really the sweet spot of free agency. Those are the guys you pay. So that's my concern, is somebody will look at it and say, well, this is the guy. You don't want to pay the 30-year-old. You don't want to pay Trey Hendrickson. I'm sure somebody will. But it'll depend on the market. And if the market is, and the Eagles are very disciplined when it comes to that stuff. But I have a feeling he's going to be this year's Zach Bond, and that he's the number one priority, and they're going to get him done. Because I think he also knows that he's never played better. He's never played better than he played with Vic in Miami and when he got here. I think he's very cognizant of that as well.
We'll see. You said Zach Bond there. Did you mean Phillips?
No, last year Zach Bond was.
He's this year. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. In here. All right, good stuff there, John. Who's the number one, free agency move that would change their draft plans completely? It might be Phillips. I also look at Goddard. Like if they don't get Goddard under contract, I mean, they don't have a tight end, John. They don't have a freaking tight end. They got to get somebody. So now they're going to get somebody somewhere. But will they draft a second round pick, first round pick? I think that seems a little rich for me, but we'll see what they end up doing. That could be a big one. Reed Blankenship, John. If Reed Blankenship goes, how important is safety? You know, Jalen Phillips, we just talked at length about him and the edge rusher room. Those to me are the big three. And then obviously Nakobe Dean, but you're more positioned at linebacker already because of Jahad Campbell and Zach Bond. So, but how do you see that element and how some of those signings could impact what they do?
Well, I think the biggest one is not free agency, but it's all intertwined, and that's obviously AJ. What they decide to do, as far as are they going to move on? I think if they move on, that drastically changes your whole philosophy in the off season. Not that you can replace them, but you need to. I mean, everybody's going to be replaced. You're not going to replace them at that level, but you need something that is approaching competency. And that would ramp up significantly at wide receiver if that happens. So that to me is by far the number one stone to fall in the new league year. What are the Eagles going to do? Can they work it out? Is he just going to be like, yeah, I don't want any part of this? So I think everything else pales in comparison. Dallas Goedert, I don't expect him to be back. He's going to be 32 years old. He took a $4 million pay cut. I don't think he wants to be back. I think that pissed him off. This will be his last chance to probably get a 2-year deal with somewhat significant money. He's coming off a career year from a touchdown standpoint, and he scored a shitload of touchdowns, and that kind of stuff gets you paid because there's a bunch of shitty GMs in this league who aren't looking at the blocking tape. And then he just had a really bad year from the blocking aspect, which obviously is going to be a key part of this team moving forward to get the run game going again. So I don't even think he's going to be back. So yeah, they're going to have to get a tight end somewhere, whether that's in free agency or that's in the draft. I find it hard to believe they take a tight end in the first round. There's one, the kid from Oregon, that could go. I don't even think he'll reach the Eagles. But yeah, they're going to have to find a tight end somewhere.
Not a whole lot of free agent tight ends. I mean, you have Goddard, you have David Njoku.
Well, you remember you have the trade market. People have been talking about Michael Mayer coming here for years.
True.
There's a lot of different.
Kyle Pitts will be on the open market.
Too expensive, way too expensive.
And he doesn't fit. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing the name out there just to see like what he would get. You know,
and he's a Philly kid, so people get excited by that.
Kylan Granson's a free agent.
Yeah, they're all free agents. Grant's a free agent. Collins a free agent.
Yeah, they're all free agents.
Dallas is a free agent. They might bring one of them back. 1-year deal type of deal. Veteran minimum. Not Dallas. Dallas is going to get a decent contract, and I think he's going to move on. And Reed, I think, will be the easiest one to get back. Because he didn't have a great year. He's not going to get overpaid. The Eagles love him.
How about Isaiah Likely? Free agent, Baltimore, 25.
Yeah, he's a good player. He's a good player. I don't know why Baltimore would leave him out of the building. A lot of these guys aren't even going to get the free agency. That's another thing people don't realize.
Yeah,
so,
right.
And I don't think, he's a guy that I don't think they'll let out of their building, but I don't cover the Ravens every day, but he's a good player. I just don't think he'll be available. But they did pay Mark Andrews a lot. So maybe they don't want to pay 2 tight ends like that.
Yeah, it's true.
So there's a lot of
Drew
things
says,
that
I
can
would say
factor in.
likely is unlikely. Good one, Drozone. Well done.
There's a lot of things that factor into it in every city. So, before, like the really, really top guys who are going to get franchised, like Dallas already talking about franchising Pickens. They're such a bad organization.
They really are. All right. My next segment, we'll get some people going. It'll be good. I'm excited to talk about it. We'll bring up that name in a second. Let's go to Brian Fleming. What's up, Fleming? Appreciate the super chat today. Brian says, so they claim Stout is staying with the team doing something, but from what's being reported, he told knee pad Nick to F off. Any update on that?
There's no claim that Stoutland is staying with the team, number one. I don't know where you guys get this stuff.
Didn't it sound like that when he first left that he's
they wanted they said, they said they wanted him back to be the offensive line coach, number one, not the run game coordinator. So, he could have come back. The thought was that he'd take a year off from coaching, and if he does, he's welcome around the building. That's basically it. That was basically it. But nobody said he's going to be part of the organization. They said he is welcome to be part of the organization because of all he's done for the Eagles over the years, which is, that's should be self-explanatory. But the question is, does he want to coach somewhere else? As I said already, some people have brought up Frank Reich with the Jets, and I that might be speculation more than anything else. You know how the people collect it. Oh, Frank Reich's with the Jets, maybe he can go there. So, to me, that's all speculation. If he wants to coach, I'm sure he'll have the opportunity. But remember how late this is. Everybody's got an offensive line coach. The Eagles are one of the last ones to have to hire an offensive line coach. So it's almost.
Have the Giants hired an offensive line coach yet?
Let's see. It's tough to get these lists, but I can get them. These offensive line. I mean, there's a couple open spots. I know that. I expect Jason Michael to end up somewhere as a tight ends coach, but I think I looked at that the other day and there were 2 open spots around the league. So it's kind of tough at this part, almost every, but you have Las Vegas, obviously, have to build up a staff. So I don't know where they are, but all right, here we go. NFL offensive line coaches. So the Raiders are vacant. And that's it. So somebody would have to fire somebody.
That's it. The only vacant O-line spot is the Raiders.
Yeah, the Jets already have an offensive line coach, Steve Hyden. Now you can do the senior offensive assistant, like Minnesota. They hired Frank.
There's the ways to make roles in the NFL.
Yeah, Minnesota hired Frank Smith as the assistant head coach, the guy the Eagles interviewed to be the offensive coordinator, who was the offensive coordinator in Miami, who's really the offensive line coach. But they have an offensive line coach to replace Chris Cooper. But the real offensive line coach is Frank Smith, if that makes sense. So there are ways you can get around it. But right now, as we speak, 31 of the 32 teams have offensive line coaches.
Yeah, that's interesting. We'll see what ends up happening there. Fleming, thanks for the super chat, brother. Here's our boy HKP. HKP, thank you, brother. This is no Temu thrift store stupor. I'm actually going to start calling the $2 supers The
Temu
the Temu Supers. I can't even buy anything on Temu with this. Come on, man. HKP, thanks for the $20 super chat. He says, so basically, another Temu thrift store offseason, question mark?
No, I don't think it'll be as I don't think they're going to go crazy because they don't have the space for that. And again, AJ means so much because he changes everything from a cap standpoint as well. If you have to move on from them, so that makes you almost by necessity to be less aggressive. But I don't think it'll be quite as bad as last year. But it's not going to be over the top. And if it is, it's going to be more trades, I would say, than anything else.
Well, where do you see him spending significant money this offseason?
Well, it depends who, I mean.
Like, there is a chance it's Temu, right? I mean, if they let Goddard walk,
last
they bring
season,
AJ back, they're not going to shell out any more money there.
I don't think they didn't sign their highest allocation in free agency last year was Azeez Ojulari at $3.5 million. I do not think it'll be like that.
Yeah, no, it can't be.
You'll have one or two big, and again, it might be the trade market. It might be
Jalen Phillips is what it might be.
Well, yeah, in turn, and the Eagles would say, well, we signed Zach Bond. Yeah, I'm not talking about the internal stuff of the last year, but that is a part of it, and it will drive Howie crazy if you don't add it into the equation. But my presumption is you're talking about outside people, not inside people. But last year they signed, some inside people. Zach being the most notable. So, yeah, that's always part of the equation. But it's like the Phillies when they bring back, what's his face? I'm drawing, the home run guy. Why can't I think of his name?
Schwarber?
Yeah, Schwarber. Thank you. And everybody's like, well, they haven't done anything. And they're like, well, we paid this guy 50-something million.
Yeah, right.
But it's like if you have it, nobody looks at it as an allocation.
Right.
But it's a big freaking allegation.
Yeah, well, we'll see what they end up doing. HKP, thanks for the $20 super, brother. Appreciate you, man, for being here. Here's Pumper. Nothing like a Pumper super chat. He's changed the profile picture again. Fellas, so how are we going to spin this Cooper Cup hire? Brian Pumper is not falling for the banana in the tailpipe. Watched too much football, SMH.
Well, if you watch too much football, you should know that you shouldn't be worried about coaches as much as you are. That's how I would frame it. The whole league gives off this, as I brought up with Tampa Bay, the whole league gives off this hint every year. Like, we just rotate guys. Minnesota doesn't want them, we'll bring them in. I wouldn't be surprised because Minnesota lost their tight ends coach to be the offensive coordinator. Where did he go? I forget where. Pittsburgh. He got the offensive coordinator job. I wouldn't be surprised if they bring in Jason Michael because they're one of the 2 or 3 teams looking for a tight ends coach.
Right.
They just, all right, we don't want them, you take them. We don't want them, you take them. It's the whole league. They do this shit every year. Why
don't the Eagles give more information? Like, are they gone or not? Is Scott Loeffler gone or not? I know we think he's gone because he's going to be gone, but is Jason Michael gone or not? They haven't announced that, but they hired a tight ends coach.
Are they gone officially? No. Are they gone? Yes. Yes. I mean, because people don't want to say it. Like, the easiest thing is, with expiring contracts, as we said, and you just don't want the guy back and you let him walk. That's the easiest way in the coaching world. But, you don't want to announce they're fired so they can go get another job. And it's, sort of a courtesy. But, yeah, Scott Loeffler's not coming back for all the Loeffler people.
No.
Jason's not coming back. Now, Kevin's a little bit weird because he might come back in an administrative role, but I assume he'll get some kind of senior offensive position somewhere. And then that'll shake out at some point. But like, it is. Here are the names. Here are the names: Pat Meyer, Zach Yinzer, Doug Marone, Steve Hayden, Scott Peters, George Warhop, Cole Popovich. I thought he coached basketball. Shane Sarrett, Justin Fry. Any of you guys register these names? These are NFL offensive line coaches. It's like, it's the fucking players, man.
Fair enough.
Chris Cooper will be better than he was in Minnesota because he'll have better players here.
Now, assuming the players get back healthy, because they weren't so great last year, but we will see. All right, we will see what ends up happening. All right, good stuff, everybody. Appreciate all you guys being here today. Hit the like button on the show. Drop your comments down below. We appreciate all of them. Super chats go to the top, so we will hit your super chats. John, I want to talk about an unlikely name this morning. Anybody want to take a guess at who I want to talk about? John, you want to take a stab at who I want to talk about?
John Dotson.
Oh, wow. What a good one, man. That is my next one. That is not this one, but that is my very next one. Literally, I have it written down, wide receiver 3, Jahan.